Hey guys, I'm really excited about today's episode. Today's talk is going to be all about AI and career opportunities. I've got a fantastic guest. I just had a great pre-interview conversation with Ben Gold, and he's going to be talking all about leveraging AI for your career. And it's really fascinating what AI can do and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So Ben, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on this call.
Yeah, you have a actually very interesting take on AI because you're actually using it not only to keep your job, but actually to help with career transitions. And I know a lot of the audience out there, they're looking into alternative streams, looking to pivot. So tell us your story and your journey.
So my journey is I've been about 20 years in the technology space. 12 years of that is in the HR tech space. The last 5 years, I've been working with an AI product on an enterprise level, and I have just been absolutely fascinated with how AI is able to crunch large amounts of data and give actionable insights right away. Now, in the early part of this year, I was let go from my job, and I was experimenting with this new generative AI technology, ChatGPT, and I was using it for my cover letters, for interview prep. So at first I was looking for a job and I was using it as a way to be more personalized. After about 3 months, what I realized, this is a very unwieldy process where I had 16 LinkedIn easy applies, and I would go onto websites, I'd have recruiters come, and I was having difficulty keeping track of everything. So I came up with this idea to create a company, a startup, and I learned all about that. I put together a team, we put together a prototype, which was to make the job seeker experience better or more efficient by having a CRM kind of experience. As I was building this out, I decided to engage with the audience, to actually sit down with people that are job seekers, to go to job networking sessions, to also talk to people that are employed but looking to change careers. And I realized that where I'm focusing now is more on the consulting space. So I have a consulting business practice right now where I help people determine how to use AI for whatever they're looking to accomplish. Now, my message is AI first. So the AI first strategy, whether you're employed or unemployed, become very familiar with it. If you've never logged into ChatGPT, my recommendation, put this on pause. Go on Google, find the registration. You just need to have your Google or Apple account or Microsoft, and become curious about this generative AI, because this is a game changer. And when I don't want to sound like a used car salesman, but it's bigger than the internet, and it has profound impact on the way of work over the next couple of years. And if you don't understand what generative AI does, then you might get swept in the wave and wonder, why am I having a difficult time either transitioning into new careers or simply finding a job?
Yeah, it's really interesting about this AI wave because unlike the internet where everybody said it was like a scam or a bubble, you can't really argue with the fact that we've seen AI over the last 20 years just progress. We've seen Google, Facebook, Amazon, all the tech companies really use AI, and it's like they've basically demolished and reinvented industries, and it's going to be interesting where it goes forward. So you have a really interesting slant, is this idea, because most people are talking about how to keep their jobs, but you're actually talking about the future of AI in career development, job search sectors, how to use it. Tell us more about that.
Great. And one of the things I think you touched upon this, Chris, and I'd like to expand on that, is this idea that AI has been around really for about 4 or 5 decades. And we see it, like you mentioned, like the Netflix recommending your next film, Amazon recommending the next product. Large corporations have been using this for decades to sell more stuff. Now, what's changed is generative AI. And that's really important to understand, that when ChatGPT came out, generative AI has democratized AI. It's shown it's a different kind of AI where they use what's called a large language model, an LLM, where, for example, the paid version of ChatGPT has over 1 trillion data points, and therefore it predicts the next phrase. So if I say, yesterday love was, it would know such an easy game to play and that this is the Beatles, because it's just able to understand really all that to put that data. Now, sometimes people are being impacted by this without knowing, because you can go straight on to ChatGPT and begin to understand how this works. But now it's being incorporated in large corporations. Apps are being created every day that take this technology to make things easier. I know you, and we can talk a little bit about different industries, including the podcasting one, on how this technology revolutionizes the game. So the question is, and I actually talked to, like, for example, a number of students, and this is really important, that if you're studying to be a graphic artist, or you're studying to be a marketing major, or to be an HR, whatever it is, it's important to understand that maybe some of the things that you've been focusing on, you might need to adjust before you get out, because that might not be as sellable when there is an automation out there that you press a button and it does what a year ago you had to pay someone a lot of money to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating, because I'm hearing all these recently, the Hollywood strike, you had the auto workers strike, you have healthcare strike. As a shareholder or CEO of a company, I'm thinking, okay, if all these workers are going to strike, how can I use AI and robotics to kind of ensure that I don't have these, production lapses and all of that? Which is the next question I have is, what is an AI first job search strategy, and why do you believe this approach offers job seekers an advantage?
So if we take it from the job seeker point of view, I have been to so many meetings where I will meet somebody who has gone through. So if you're looking specifically at the job seeker strategy, there's roughly 6 phases. There's your career objectives, you're updating your resume, updating your social media profile, networking, applying to jobs, and interviewing. Each of these phases there's ways that you can use AI. And I can show, for example, on career objectives, when somebody says to me, I'm not sure what I want to do, I'm thinking of changing my job, or whatever that is, or maybe it's their first resume. I used to have a lot of friends that I would walk through. This took me a month. I'd have to have 4 or 5 meetings, decide what you want to do, take a look at what's out there, determine your skills, and yada, yada, yada. Now I can do 1 month's worth of work in 1 hour. Okay. Yeah. So I've met people who are 4 months into their job search and haven't done this exercise where you basically take a personality test. You can take anything that's a piece of data about yourself, about what you like, what you've accomplished. Throw in that plus an old resume, whatever your oldest version is. It might be a couple of years old, and then say, and I give you an example of a prompt, a command that you can give the ChatGPT. You say, hey, ChatGPT, based upon this data, give me 5 career choices and give me my compatibility as a %, and then give me a 2-paragraph explanation on each of them. And then it will take all this data and it will say, hey, you're a 93% match for project management, a 90% for a sales rep, 86 for marketing manager. And it will go through and explain all that. And then it doesn't tell you what to do, but it just literally took hours and hours in seconds of work to be able to go there and say, wow, okay, well, I'm interested. Can you expand on number 3? And then it will go and give you that data. That's how to take the power of AI, of crunching large amounts of data and coming up with really valuable insights. Now, I've done this with people that have been unemployed for, let's say, 4 months, and suddenly they're like, oh, I didn't think of that. And, I would go through that exercise and I would say, if you thought maybe if you're like, for example, if you're applying to jobs and either those jobs aren't out there, because right now content creation, those kinds of jobs are being destroyed by AI. So you might want to change the kind of job you're looking for. So if you can't find them, or if you go on LinkedIn and there's 500 people that are applying for the job, then that means you probably need to go find something else to do, because there's 500 on LinkedIn, but that means probably another 500 on the website, using Indeed, using all these other places. So that is really key, is to be cognizant of your skill set and how it's being impacted. So that's kind of the idea that start now. If you haven't done that, do this analysis, because maybe you're not being efficient with your time, or wondering why am I sending my resume and nobody's responding to me? Well, this could probably at least tell you why and give you some direction on where to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. We have so many stories to share. We shared so many stories. Just like for example, a podcast will take, traditionally it would take, people release a podcast a week, and it takes, hundreds, maybe sometimes thousands of dollars for production. And now with, ChatGPT and AI editing software, you can produce a podcast in a day, almost as fast as a tweet or like an Instagram post, and it's so powerful. It's like shave so much time and been for a fraction of the cost. Which brings me to this next question. Oh, go ahead. I think you're gonna.
Let's dig into that because we were talking beforehand. I'd like to just ask you a few questions. So, like my understanding is that a podcaster. So this is a microcosm of every single industry out there. Now, when I think of careers, I think of two things. I think of industries, finance, real estate, healthcare, technology, but I think of roles, marketing, sales, HR, that are inside of these different industries. And if you think of it as a matrix like this, AI, depending upon the app, is disruptive both in the verticals as well as the roles. That's why it's so impactful. So let's take your example.
Yeah.
How many hours would it take 2 years ago? You made a podcast, right? You either had to pay someone like $1,000 to produce it, correct? Yeah. And you might have to work, maybe 3, 4, 5 hours to review their work to make sure that, tell me if this is right. You have to cut the video into smaller segments. You need to make a summary. You need to post on social media, make shorts, etc. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, you're correct. So I'll give you an example is the amount of time for, say, for example, one podcast production, like a 30-minute, it would take probably, I say, total 5 hours of man hour, just time. And you release a podcast episode 1 week, right? On top of that, you have to pay the editor. And for example, last year I was paying tens of thousands for a video editor, social media manager, content editor, etc., right? And now with ChatGPT for $20 a month, and with AI editing software, which is like maybe $100 a year, I shaved one podcast down. I can create a podcast in 15 minutes, and that's from start to finish. And each episode will probably cost me maybe 25 cents. Very extremely. Whereas one episode would cost hundreds of, maybe even thousands of dollars. So that's how rapidly things have, if you're a content creator, you have to start thinking how to use AI, not how to, rely on, of course a team is good, but software, as Mark Andreessen said, that software is eating the world. So that's one example. Think about when you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation and you're trying to shave costs, it's incredible. So.
Well, that's this part that's really scary, because let's just take your example here. I'm going to expand upon it because this is really important for people in the audience to realize that you just mentioned you had a video editor. So imagine that I am a video editor. I used to have a job with Chris, right? Now all of a sudden Chris doesn't need me because is it Cast Magic? What is it that you use, if I may ask?
I use Wisecut, Opus Clip, the different AI basic these. Oh, I also have to mention that in 15 minutes, you can not only do a podcast, but you can do a blog. You can post it throughout, all the social media platforms. You can create reels, shorts, all these different things in that span of a time. And you can do it. Basically, it'll take one upload and it'll push it out to so many different. That's how powerful it is. So. But I know you had that question. So,
well, no, the reason I say this is that you have, so there's two, so let's just kind of break this down, because I'll give a couple of different examples. But for your example, you have probably, you have a 95% efficiency rate, at least. Yeah. So you take 1/20th the time of your time to produce, and you've cut your expenses by about 95%. Now that's great for you as a podcast. However, when I'm thinking of somebody who's a video editor who maybe is in his or her 40s, they have a skill that up until a year ago was a very sought after skill, was something that was difficult to do, but now we have an AI bot that can replicate it. What are these people going to do? And that's a very serious societal question. What are they going to do when large corporations, get rid of their video editors because they might use one video editor instead of 5, because you have one guy who runs all of the work of 5 because they can use AI for that. And that becomes a question of how do I, as a video editor, come up with a new skill or reinvent myself so that I can compete in this economy. And this is, so we take this one as an example. Now, let me give you a couple other ones. HR. HR to me is one that is a little scary because let's take different aspects. You got one aspect, which is talent acquisition. And we've always had applicant tracking systems, and you need them because if you have 500 resumes coming in, you're going to have some sort of screening software. Now, a lot of those are using AI to be able to put some sort of compatibility match and be able to say, and be able to weed out 90% so you can get to a manageable amount to look at. But now they're also deploying these bots that do interviews. So imagine that you want to apply for a job, and instead of talking to an actual screening recruiter, your screening call is with a bot. And the bot is able to then process the information and share that to the team. So now companies that have a large talent acquisition team can be more efficient. Now take the next thing, onboarding. There are apps that actually will take all of the company documents, take the role, upload it, and it will give a onboarding experience that's personalized based upon what this new hire is supposed to do. That used to take hours. That used to need someone with a degree. And so you ask the question, how many people in HR do you need? You'll definitely need something from a legal point of view, especially for large corporations. You'll need someone to be able to talk and be personable, but you don't have to hire as many people. And so that is truly, and the thing that's weird is that if I'm a small company or a medium-sized business, I have to deploy AI to stay competitive because my competitors are doing the same thing. So in a sense, it's adopting so fast. And my concern is a societal dislocation in which in which you have a group of people that cannot find a job. And and when you have a large amount of people with a dislocation, it becomes very difficult to handle the financial stress and the other elements that these people are doing because they can't find their role in this new reality.
Yeah, really interesting. And I would like to have you back on as a part 2 because there's so much to talk about. One final question before you tell the audience how they can contact you, follow you. But you mentioned this idea that I wanted to ask you is you're understanding generative AI, but you mentioned that generative AI is a democratization effect. What do you mean by that?
So before ChatGPT, I think most people understood that AI is out there. They kind of knew there's this magic when you do a Google search, but I really don't want to know what the magic is. When ChatGPT came out, there was a group of people, myself included, where you're able to suddenly understand, wow, I can input data, and if you learn how to do it correctly, to get an output that's personalized. And suddenly so if I'm a sales rep and I want to do a personalized presentation, especially in the enterprise sales space, that's where I come from, I can go in and take the social media profile of the person I'm going to meet. I can throw in my Salesforce notes. I can throw in anything I need to know and say, help me to understand this person's top 5 priorities. Help me find things that I have personally in common with this person. Help me find what's my best way to pitch. And so my point is that's something that normally it might take hours to crunch the data to figure this out. And that's what the top reps would do. Now you can do it in minutes. And so that's the democratization, is this idea that AI can be used by an individual, not just a large corporation.
I see. Yeah. So really interesting. So, and how can people contact you, follow you, and we'll have you on as part 2 of the show.
Perfect. So I am available at Ben.com. That's my website. I have a book called Find Your Next Job with ChatGPT that you can buy on my website. I also do, if anybody here would like for me to speak to their job seeker networking groups or are interested in personalized consulting for their business, how to be more efficient, how to use AI, I have some contact forms here. So that's really the way to find me. On LinkedIn, I've got my profile, Ben Gold. So happy to connect with anybody on this show and would love to talk about AI.
Yeah, really. And like I said, the more I talk, and I love this slant as using AI in job seeking, recruiting, HR, really a new aspect of AI. And for all the audience out there, let's thank Ben for coming onto the show and really talking about this very important technology.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was a fantastic conversation. And I know we could go on, not that we do it for hours, but you can go into so many different directions.